Things have been crazy lately, folks, and working from home has been a new change. And so how do we tackle it? How do we make sure that we're getting the most out of our days whenever the chaos is now in our own home? So I'm going to talk about three things. There are many different strategies we can take, but just for the sake of this CLD corner, I'm going to focus on three simple strategies that I think can make life a little bit easier for you. Number one is called creating a productivity journal. Number two is your prioritization of tasks, which is known as the glass jar of prioritization. And the last one is chunk, block, and tackle. And so to first talk about the productivity journal, what this is basically a guideline for how you can set up all your tasks at the end of the day. What many people do is normally they start checking out 10, 15 minutes early. They want to just make sure that they're kind of winding down before, they have to go downstairs and either start making dinner, start picking up some kiddos. And so there's normally kind of parts of the day where, we are at home and we're just kind of ready to call it. And one thing I want you to do is start getting the most out of the last 10 minutes of your day. What I want you to do, and I have mine right here, I have one that I always like to write down. And so the productivity journal is at the very end of my day. I always write out the next things that I need to take care of. So I just jot down, this is an absolute brain dump, anything that's on your mind. It could be something completely unrelated, but it's something you need to do. Do a brain dump at the end of the day. This allows you to get everything down. And then from there, I want you to prioritize. I want you to start looking at which ones truly need the highest priority. Which ones do we need to make sure we can tackle now? Which ones do we maybe have a dependency? But we want to make sure that we have all the things down that we need to do. And it makes us feel better because when it's lodged up here, folks, it seems intangible. When it's out in front of us, the world seems easier to grasp. So I want you to take 10 minutes at the end of every day just to make sure you have yourself set up for the next day. The other reason why it's important and why I suggest you don't do it first thing in the morning is because now when you go to open up your journal first thing in the morning, you don't have to decide what to do first. You already did that work. Now it's just getting right to crunch time. That's why I want you to start focusing on having a more effective productivity journal. Work on it the last 10 minutes of the day, do the brain dump, get everything out there and prioritize and set yourself up for the next day. I've found that 10 minutes has saved me probably an hour every morning because now I'm motivated and I know exactly what I need to do. The second strategy that I like to talk about with using the productivity journal is making sure that you always keep it with you. Right? I always like to carry it with me because if I know that I have something else to do, if I'm walking, say for instance, in the kitchen, if I'm getting something to eat and something else pops in my head, boom, I can write that down real quick. So I always like to have that because it gives me a sense of satisfaction. The final component of using the productivity journal that I really want to stress is that if you have not done this 3 separate days and you still haven't been able to tackle it, you need to do one of 3 things. You either need to defer it, which means get it on your calendar for a later date where it's going to truly be a priority for you. Delegate it where it actually is going to get passed to somebody else that has the skill set and the time to be able to take care of it, or delete it. Sometimes we just need to archive it. Maybe it's not important, and maybe we just need to get it off our chest and move on. I love a good productivity journal, and I find it to always be beneficial. The second big strategy I want to talk to you about is prioritization. And I want us to think of this like a glass jar. If we have rocks, pebbles, sand, water, and we have all 4 of these things sitting in this, sitting outside this glass jar, what do we take care of first? Well, according to Stephen Covey, author of the 7 Habits for Highly Successful People, the rocks go in first. These are your urgent, most important tasks that you need to take care of. I always like to take the rocks, make sure that I block off my time accordingly because they are urgent, they are important, and they require my time. What's funny is we set time for other people with meetings and other things, but we don't do that with our own time. And I think the rocks truly need to be taken care of. The pebbles are next because they are still important, but they can be down the road things that we want to make sure we stay on top of. So what I always try to do is maximize my time by maybe still blocking off an additional 15 to 20 minutes with just kind of knocking out something that can be a little bit more over a certain timeline. So they're small pebbles, but those small pebbles end up to a lot of big pebbles. But the reason why I like to focus those around the big rocks is because if you put in the pebbles first, there's no room for the rocks. So I always make sure the most urgent and most important tasks go in first, and then the urgent tasks that might not be so urgent come in next. Next is our sand. And our sand is the urgent tasks that aren't really important. These are things that if I can, I'm going to delegate to my team. If it's something that I don't have a team to delegate, I'm going to make sure that I do this in 2 to 5 minutes. I'm going to knock it out quickly. Normally, these are urgent, quick things. Send an email, get it done. And I always try to find the 2 to 5 minutes in between getting ready for my next meeting that I maximize that time in between. And you see how those 2 minutes fits within the next set of minutes, which fits in the next set of minutes. So that's how the glass jar of prioritization works. The last one, folks, is non-urgent, non-important tasks, which is what I call water. Now, just because it's not urgent and just because it's not important doesn't mean it still shouldn't be focused on. Sometimes it's great to reach out to a coworker. Sometimes it's still beautiful to have that wonderful connection with them. But work that time around when both of you might have some availability. See, if we spend 30 minutes communicating with a coworker about something that's maybe not high priority, we've lost that 30 minutes and now we still feel like we exhausted ourselves and there's nothing left in the jar to work with. I love the glass jar of prioritization because it always has me focus on the most important tasks first, and I schedule them accordingly to make sure that we get them done right. The last one, folks, is that if you have big projects, there's a strategy out there that I like to use called chunk, block, and tackle. Chunk, block, and tackle is about taking a large project and breaking it down into as many 15-minute segments as possible. Now, I normally get the question of, yes, could we do this in 30 minutes? Could we do this in an hour? What if I have this large three-month project? Well, if you have a 3-month project, still take as many 15-minute segments as you possibly can. Once again, this goes back to productivity journals and making sure we're maximizing our time. If we know that this is going to take 80 15-minute segments, at least we know. And so what I always like to do is determine where breaks can be made in larger projects. It allows me to digest what I need to do. That's what chunking is all about. Folks, there's a reason why they call it the old-fashioned phrase of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's what chunk, block, and tackle is all about. Because once you chunk it, you block out the times. You take a 15-minute segment here. You take a 15-minute segment there. You take a 15-minute segment there. You know, if you block out 4 15-minute segments a day, some people say, well, I don't have an hour of my day. You might have 4 15-minute segments you can flip in there. So I really like doing these 15-minute segments because it makes it manageable and it truly feels like we can knock it out. Once we've done that and we've determined, we've chunked those 15-minute segments, we've blocked them off on our calendar, the last thing I like to do is tackle. Now, this means you focus only on this task. You go into do not disturb mode with whatever platform you use, and you determine the actionable steps and you get it done. No interruptions, no breaks, no Facebook, no social media. You get to the task and you hone in. Some people like to set a timer if they'd like. I'm 100% for that. Some people might not like the pressure of the timer. That's okay too. Whichever one you do, you go uninterrupted. And that's why I like 15-minute segments, because 15 seems manageable. These are 3 great tasks you can do when you're working from home. And I like this because sometimes in the world of chaos where our days have been expanded and we might not have the time here and might not have the time here, taking that sort of time and maximizing those 10 to 15-minute segments will make your life so much easier. Now, folks, as I always like to do in CLD Corners, I just want to mention that you're not alone out there. We have been doing virtual live training since 2001. All of our facilitators are incredible with managing their time in the online platform. So definitely reach out to us. In our Center for Leadership and Development courses, it's not just about the facilitation. We have so many post-class reinforcement materials to help you. And if you're interested, reach out to your account executive or your educational consultant. You could also reach out to me, Jay Pugh, and my email is jason.pugh@nhpittsburgh.com. I truly want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me, getting the most out of your time, and I'll see you next time on the CLD Corner. Take care.